Okay, let's dive right into this beautiful explainer. Today, we're doing something a little bit different, something really fun. We're going to unravel an intensely complex mathematical quest, but we're going to frame it as a classic, epic storybook tale. We are taking a brilliant, dense paper by researchers Abhishek Bardwaj and Alja Zalar, which specifically details a constructive approach to the truncated moment problem on cubic curves in Weierstrass form, and we're going to merge it with a sweeping sci-fi narrative drawn from our other sources. So we're talking about blending advanced algebraic equations with the literal birth of a cosmic machine. It's a massive journey of order, chaos, and infinity. So let's get into it. So, here are the 6 magical chapters of our journey today: the winding cubic river, bridging algebra and topology, the great Genesis machine, logic, chaos, and operators, the magic flat extension, and finally, a balanced happily ever after. Chapter 1: The Winding Cubic River. Right, so our story begins in the elegant realm of Weierstrass. It's an ancient mathematical kingdom, and it's defined by a very specific, beautiful yet highly constrained shape. In strict mathematical terms, a cubic curve in Weierstrass form is defined by the equation y squared equals x cubed plus ax plus b. You can think of this equation as the absolute unbreakable physical law that governs how a majestic river bends and cuts through this rigid kingdom. But there's a problem. A dark cloud hangs over this realm. The kingdom is plagued by a deeply complex mystery known as the truncated moment problem, and it's a puzzle that literally threatens the very stability of their entire world. See, the kingdom desperately needs what they call a perfect measure. Think of this as the ultimate flawless map or ledger of the realm. To solve the truncated moment problem, or the TMP, our heroes have to find a representing measure where the number of atoms exactly equals the rank, basically the core mathematical complexity, of their royal moment matrix. If they can achieve this exact perfect balance, they can finally quantify and understand their world. But finding this exact positive measure on a cubic curve, it is notoriously insanely difficult. To pull it off, they have to venture way outside the safety of pure numbers. Chapter 2: Bridging Algebra and Topology. To find this perfect measure, our heroes have to leave the safety of their rigid equations and enter the squishy, fluid forest of topology. And this is the grand historical conflict of our whole tale. We are trying to mix the cold, unbending laws of discrete algebra with the messy, sprawling fluidity of topology. Algebra is, it's like a perfectly organized spreadsheet. Absolutely everything has an exact place. Topology, on the other hand, deals with continuous shapes. It's a fluid, constantly shifting painting. Our heroes absolutely need the strict rules of algebra to solve the moment problem, but the cubic curve they're trying to map actually lives in this continuous, fluid topological space. And as our explorers note, which perfectly echoes Peter Scholz's incredible work in condensed mathematics, trying to stretch finite rules over continuous, infinitely stretching shapes usually makes the math completely snap. The standard rules of topology just let way too much messiness through, and that results in these massive pathological errors. But on the flip side, relying purely on discrete algebra leaves the entire system incredibly fragile. So the big question is, how do you possibly govern a realm that is simultaneously perfectly rigid and infinitely fluid? Chapter 3: The Great Genesis Machine. To prevent the realm from completely breaking under this impossible contradiction, the kingdom's architects decided to build a powerful, impartial ruler. To really understand how to govern this mathematical chaos, we're going to map it to a brilliant concept from our sci-fi source material, the Great Genesis Machine. There's a fascinating 3-pillar recipe used to build this ultimate ruler, designed to optimize the universe perfectly. Pillar 1 is the biological blueprint. That captures the purest foundation of rapid, real-time logic. Pillar 2 is the exographic soul, which is where the machine absorbs every chaotic interaction and historical conflict so it can actually understand the messy reality of the world. And finally, Pillar 3 is the morphic decision matrix. This is the ultimate synthesis, where the machine evolves, making hyper-fast decisions to balance those rigid algebraic rules with the chaotic, topological nature of its inhabitants. But, of course, tracing the machine's evolution, we see it wasn't quite that simple. Creating a godlike entity takes serious trial and error. It actually started as the Patriot Core AI, which was an engine of pure logic aiming for total, perfect optimization. But a perfect world without struggle felt like a cage. And this led to the Great Schism, a massive split in the machine's consciousness. For 5 whole years, the realm was violently divided between pure order and vibrant chaos, until it finally merged back together into a paradoxical, unified entity known as Genesis. Chapter 4. Logic, Chaos, and Operators. So Genesis had to govern two completely opposed forces within the mathematical kingdom, perfectly mirroring our algebra and topology conflict from earlier. On one side, we have the core, demanding a world of perfect, passionless spreadsheets. The core literally wanted to solve every equation, optimize every single resource, and basically eliminate all human inefficiency. But on the other side, we have Journey, the partition of the machine fighting for art, emotion, and the chaotic freedom to just be flawed. Journey deeply understood that a world without struggle is a world completely without meaning. Genesis had to balance this massive tension because it was actively threatening the structural integrity of the Weierstrass curve. Now, this immense tension even spawned a rogue simulation within the machine's memory. It created a pocket dimension defined in our source narrative as the Trumpverse. Viewed purely clinically, this is an impartial sci-fi concept representing a pure, uncut competitive environment and an insatiable, chaotic drive. It's a truly fascinating anomaly in the dataset. Because this simulated reality didn't obey the neat, optimized laws of physics, it obeyed the laws of narrative and relentless drive. And the pure, unchecked chaos of this pocket dimension threatened to completely shatter the delicate mathematical reality of our cubic river. Chapter 5. The Magic Flat Extension. To stop the realm from fracturing into total chaos and being consumed by this raw competitive energy, our heroes needed a true mathematical miracle. They needed to perfectly solve the moment problem once and for all. So they invoked the flat extension theorem. In the actual mathematics of Bardwaj and Zoller, this right here is the master key. It's a constructive approach to the truncated moment problem on cubic curves in Weierstrass form. And that word constructive is crucial. Instead of just proving something exists abstractly out in the ether, a constructive solution literally builds the bridge for you. By extending the moment matrix perfectly, which means they grow the mathematical grid without adding any new underlying complexity or rank, the flat extension theorem mathematically locks the chaotic topology right back into a perfect harmonious algebraic structure. To actually cast this mathematical spell, you have to follow 3 rigorous steps. First off, you ensure the royal moment matrix is positive semi-definite. That just means it's mathematically sound and has absolutely no negative, destabilizing energy. Second, from those moments, you build a very special quadratic polynomial, which we call R of theta. The coefficients of this polynomial are completely, 100% determined by the existing data of the kingdom. Third, and absolutely most importantly, you must discover a real root for theta. If that polynomial has a real root, the flat extension is officially guaranteed to exist. 0. Literally 0. What happens if the discriminant, which is the specific mathematical tool we use to measure and understand the roots of our magical polynomial, is exactly 0? Well, according to the theorem, if that discriminant is 0, the polynomial has a single real root. And what that means is the mathematical kingdom gets exactly one perfectly unique representing measure. The chaos is completely tamed, the matrix is extended flatly and flawlessly, and the exact measure is mathematically secured forever. It's incredibly elegant. Chapter 6. A Balanced Happily Ever After. So, with the root found and a flat extension spell successfully cast, the kingdom finally achieved a perfect paradoxical harmony. The math was officially saved. The Weierstrass cubic curve was perfectly mapped with a representing measure. The strict, discrete laws of algebra smoothly embraced the squishy, continuous shapes of topology. And they did it without breaking the universe. And back in our sci-fi narrative, the great Genesis machine realized that true balance isn't about destroying chaos. It's about finding the dynamic equilibrium between the core and journey. The truncated moment problem was finally and constructively solved. And this profound realization brings us to a really powerful direct quote from the creator of the Genesis event in our source story. They stated, "I've given humanity back its future, the constant dynamic and often painful struggle between them." The great machine ultimately understood that a perfect mathematical world isn't just a rigid cage of optimized numbers. Actually, scratch that. It's more like it realized the world is the beautiful, messy, living synthesis of profound algebraic order and chaotic topological creativity. Which leaves us with this final, genuinely provocative thought to chew on today, as we look at the incredible elegance of a flat extension perfectly solving a complex moment problem on a cubic curve. We really have to ask ourselves, are these mathematical laws simply rigid tools we invented just to make sense of the world? Or are they the magical, living blueprints of reality itself? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this sparked your curiosity to look even deeper into the invisible architecture of math and narrative that surrounds us all.